Oh, I didn't realize that the person can see when it's starting to record. Okay, that was good to see. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Well, you know what it is because I think I logged in. I think we both logged in.
Mhm.
You didn't log in with the link, did you?
No, I logged in. Yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, yeah. No, I just logged in on my own. Yeah. So
I
I
mean,
wouldn't be kicked out.
I can understand the energy. Like, I feel like I'm being interviewed by Koku. Like, I can see the energy where people are just like, I'm being interviewed by Koku. This is cool. I can see the excitement.
Someone was like, hi everybody, my name is Koku at BLACKFILM.com, and I'm here with Val Moore, the CEO of BLACKFILM.com. Thank you for joining us on camera today.
Well, thank you for having me, Koku.
How about that cello? You don't see that every day.
I know. I have a son that has taken up the interest, and I'm sorry there's a dog in the background making a lot of noise, but I've always wanted to be interviewed by you, Koku. So I'm just so excited to be here.
So, and I'm so excited that you're excited to be here because I'm excited too.
Anyway.
Anyways, I do think that are we going into full-on interview mode? Or are we going to talk about topics?
I say we just
Freestyle.
I say we do our normal thing and not even worry that we're being recorded. I don't know. We talk about so much all the time, right?
That's correct.
I mean, I think the one topic that I would love to go over right now is the effect of the situation on Black women.
Okay.
Women and Black women, this whole situation.
What's the situation? You'll have to expound on that.
I will say in my personal life, there's been a residual effect of how some men have made Jada the token child of how a bad Black wife is.
Right. I can agree with that. I can agree with that. I think that the conversation has gone from where we're just sort of having talking points to just getting like very, very, very nasty and ugly, and now it's gotten to the point where the online effects of what's been talked about, what she's having to see, it's become a type of bullying, really. Because whether we like it or not, I mean, I've said it before. I think that the slap was an overreaction, but at the same time, it doesn't mean that he didn't have the right to be offended or to defend his wife. Now, what that looks like, depends on the person, I suppose. I don't agree with how he went about it, but I understand the urge to defend your spouse or your family member. So that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is that we cannot go from someone feeling aggressed, insulted, offended, to now in this situation making the victim out to be some malignant, evil person because they took offense to something based on what they were personally experiencing. At that point, we're not being fair.
Well, that's interesting because when you were talking, and I know you very well, you said victim, and I was wondering, like, who do you find to be the victim in this scenario?
I think that's a great question. So there's a couple of things. I think that in the scenario, Jada is initially the victim.
Okay.
The joke was told. She was offended, so it hurt her feelings. That's we've established that.
Right.
Will is not a victim. He overreacted. So in a strange way, I believe that both Jada and Chris are victims. But at the same time, I believe Chris needs to hold himself accountable for how he became a victim too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so then this goes into apologies, right? So when there's a victim, they're hurt. So typically an apology happens. Am I correct? And the only apology in this whole scenario has been issued to Chris Rock out of the three.
Publicly.
Publicly.
This is the thing with apologies with me. First of all, I'm a person that holds myself accountable. So if you hear someone say that I don't hold myself accountable, they are absolutely lying. That's just not true. Yeah. So if I do something and I really act in a way that is just untoward and unkind, and I've just done something that was just terrible, and if I do that thing in a public space, maybe I laugh at something that happened to you or something, because things do happen. And I do it publicly and I humiliate you or I make you feel some type of way, I am 100% going to, in that same space, in that same venue, in that same audience, going to apologize.
Right.
So that's just something that I'm willing to do. I'm willing to say I was wrong.
Okay.
I hold myself accountable and I apologize. There are many, many people in this world who are not capable of apologizing. And when they do it in a very flippant way where they're just doing it like to kind of get you off their back.
Right.
And that's not what I'm about. I'm more so like I really want to own this moment because there are a lot of teachable moments, and sometimes those teachable moments don't make you out to be the good guy.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so to this point, and I'm going to be the devil's advocate because I've just had my whole personal life has been turned upside down. Just because of who is around me, and they have had because it's almost like I had at this point because I'm so irritated. A very different perspective. So why should someone apologize because it's just a joke?
Yeah, see, that's not right, and that's not fair. Because
right.
Even if you're joking, because I've definitely been in that situation. I can relate this to something at work. I can remember some time ago, I was at a job, right? I was working a job like a 9 to 5, and I made a joke about someone's like poor performance in an area. And I did it, like I was kind of joking with the boys, like it was sort of like a guys club thing, and I was joking, they were joking, and I made it, and then we were all kind of going back and forth. And then one particular individual was not really part of the conversation per se; they were just in the room. So I made the same joke towards them, and we were all laughing, and it was something that seemed so forgettable to all of us. But then they kind of like shrunk and left the room, and I could just tell something happened. Like you could just tell something happened.
Right.
So
emotional intelligence.
Right. So I just said, wait a minute, like I gotta address what happened, right? So I excused myself from the room and I said, hey, listen, Bob, let's make up a name. I said, what did I do something to offend you? And this man, and it was a man, he was so destroyed. And what happened was he wasn't destroyed so much at the joke. This is what makes it really even more terrible. He was more destroyed that the joke came from me because of how he felt about our relationship. So he felt like it was more like a judgment than a joke. So you never really know how people are going to process things. So I told him, I was like, I am so sorry. And I said, let me in the same space where I humiliated you, and how, because I don't have a right to tell you how you should feel. That's right. I'm not here to argue with and I don't argue stuff like that. So I went back into the space and I said, listen.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I love that comment. Like that's like $1 million comment. Thought like I can't tell you basically how to feel.
I can't. It's not right. That's not okay. And that's how a lot of people like when people don't want to take accountability, and people of low emotional intelligence will try to do that kind of as a way to deflect and to just not own where they may be wrong in a moment. I mean, we've all been wrong before. I mean, it doesn't make us bad people. That's what I try to tell people. Like we've all made mistakes. And making a mistake, it's not like the end of your, like it doesn't define you, is what I'm trying to say. So in that same space, I did apologize openly, and that completely restored our relationship. Whereas had I been an individual like, well, it wasn't that serious, like I was just joking, everybody else was laughing, that would have completely fractured a relationship that was very important to me, because Bob in this instance was a very, very kind and good friend to me. So I learned then that while I was joking with those people like that and it worked with them, I never joked with Bob like that again.
Yeah, I mean, but no. I mean, number one, I love how you're saying you can't tell people how to feel. You can't just say, I mean, I think a lot of people have this response that he said, it's just a GI joke, right? So they're saying that basically because they're reinforcing that he didn't realize that it hurt, or reinforcing that this is a joke. So why are you being so sensitive? And so, right. And if you're going to say something, you can go ahead. You can always jump in.
Yeah, because I think I was thinking the same thing. Like, well, the joke itself was pretty lame. Like, it didn't really seem like a big deal. It wasn't even like, it wasn't a good joke, and it wasn't really funny, and it was actually kind of even like, it wasn't a big deal. But when you're talking about, again, like what's happening with people, we don't know why a joke is being taken a certain way. I mean, from her perspective, it just wasn't funny. I don't need an explanation for that. If she just didn't think it was funny, if she was offended by it, I don't need her to explain to me why. She just was. Yeah. But from his perspective, it's like, for something that seems so so innocuous and just like so like really like a GI Jane joke, like that serious.
That was almost condescending.
Right, but from that perspective, a joke that just seemed that light and just so just like, all right, whatever. Well, what is a person going through? You know, it's like, why don't we ever examine like the totality of the situation? Sometimes, like, what is a person going through where something that seems so innocuous and so unimportant and just like forgettable to that person drove them over the edge to where they were there. So that's why if I even this is tough, because when I ruminate on it and I think about it, there's the part of me that says if I were Chris Rock, obviously, like I've said this before, I wouldn't have been, taking it to, I wouldn't have slapped him on stage back, but I would have taken it backstage, like, cause how you gonna slap me? Like, you just can't do that. Yeah. But then
You can go to Koku's. Tell me your social if you want to hear.
Oh yeah, my socials, go to @KokuPuff. My YouTube is YouTube Koku TV, KOKU TV, and that's where I have it posted. But you know, backstage I would have, even if he would have like just whooped I would have went backstage and just definitely, just got busy. Like, I'm just going to be honest with you. But that doesn't mean I can't publicly apologize and accept all stages of why we ended up where we were. And I believe Chris Rock could do that, and we could all be in a better place if that happened. And I don't even need, I wouldn't even need like
the world if he did that.
It would be like it would be so mature and kind to do that. At the same time, I wouldn't, like, I'm the kind of person, as long as I do what I feel like I need to do, which is again the backstage situation. I wouldn't need anybody to report back that like, oh, and sources say they were fighting back. Like, that's not important to me, because I did what I had to do. I didn't do it there. But I would own that. Like, I'd be like, listen, here we were. What I thought was just a joke that, blah, blah, blah. All right, cool. Like, well, never again. I'll keep her name out of my mouth, But then there's also part of me too, like roast jokes, like in that sense. I don't really like that kind of comedy on that type of stage. Like, it's one thing if you're friends and like y'all kind of clowning and you're hanging out with your friends and you're
right.
But that type of energy, like in comedy, like that's not really the kind of comedy that gets me going.
Yeah, it's complicated, but I'm telling you, we would have a whole different world if that man could have just publicly said, "I'm sorry, Jada, if I offended you. Didn't mean to."
Yeah, because it actually kind of says, because there's a lot of talk about, again, accountability. But there's also like a lot of talk in today. We talk about like narcissism, right? And people like centering themselves. One thing that you'll find and you'll hear about people that are very narcissistic is they do not have the ability to apologize to anyone. Like, they just can't pull it out.
Well, let's just like, I'll be devil's advocate again. Maybe Chris Rock just truly doesn't think that he did anything wrong. Because the first thing out of his mouth was, "It's a GI Jane joke," or some sort. Remember?
Yeah. You got a text.
You can see that.
Well, not yours. I know, right?
You can see that?
Like, she the feds. Nah, I got the same text, so that's why I paused, because it came up on my screen too, because I'm on a Mac as well.
Oh, okay.
Shout out to Apple.
I mean, the reason why I think that it would have been really healing for us as a world community, or whatever community we want to put ourselves in, is because there was just so much conversation over. It really became almost like it became divisive. So basically, like, but it's just a joke, and it's comedy, and comedians joke. And some people really feel that way, and there's some people like me. It's just like, well, first of all, I mean, this is like the world stage. Like, can't you come up with anything to make us laugh other than waiting for someone who you find to be ridiculous, and that you don't find a threat to basically clown? Because clearly, I don't think he would have done that to Nicole Kidman.
He would not have done that to Nicole.
There's something about everybody sitting in that audience that arguably you can talk about.
Yeah, that's true.
So why was it Jada is the question, but we're not gonna get into that. That's like,
Mm-hmm.
That's like a very
that's something that's like a rhetorical question, right? I guess something that we could all just sort of sit with and think about. But I think we kind of could know the answer, you know.
about that one, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So now, like I said, if there was an apology issue, then you wouldn't have all these people, and I will say even couples, debating upon it.
But see, no, because people love they like drama.
Yeah, this
So,
yeah.
so a lot of people are just not mature. So what would happen? What would really happen is if an apology from Chris Rock, if Chris Rock would have done the so-called right thing and just immediately issued an apology, like, you know what, that just, I get it, you know, guys, it's just a slap. I wasn't like thrown to the ground, and I'm not concussed. Like, you know, I'm fine. You know, I get it, and we don't know what they're going through. Like, boom, and just offer some sort of sincere apology. You know what people would run with? Oh, Chris Rock is soft. Why he apologized? That man slapped him. If somebody would have slapped me, then it would become the whole thing. I'd have got on that stage. The same stuff we're seeing now.
That's
But
true.
it would not be good for Chris Rock's so-called image and public image. People would find that even more emasculating, honestly, than the slap itself, which sounds so crazy.
To apologize to Jada?
Yes, they
Oh
would.
wow. Okay.
That's how people just are. They find an angle.
If he even said my bad, it would just be like, my bad.
Well,
My
my bad is not an apology. I'm talking about a sincere, thoughtful apology that really reflects on the moment.
Okay.
If he'd have done that like a day later, just like Will apologized, imagine if Chris in turn, like on his Instagram, apologized in a thorough way that way and said, you know, listen, you know, it's just a slap. You didn't like, you know, knock me out, you know, even though you played Ali. Like, that would be a funny joke. You
Yeah,
know,
right.
so I know you could. Like, that would have been funny if he kind
Right.
of made that lighthearted and then went into the more serious portion and said, but to you, Jada, I really want to tell you that, like, I don't have a right to tell you how to feel. I didn't know I didn't know about your condition. I did not know that was going to offend you. Like, those kinds of things can be said without necessarily sounding like excuses. You can tell your version of whatever your truth is,
Right.
but then get into the sincere but again, it's accountability. Get into the sincerity of the apology that person deserves. If it had went like that in a 2-day cycle, we wouldn't be here right now.
We really wouldn't be here right now.
We wouldn't be here right now.
You have so many different groups. I mean, I was speaking to someone, a male, that takes a position that it's just a joke. We're all too sensitive. Became very sarcastic. Oh, maybe we just shouldn't have comedians, right? And then this is very early on. I'm like, you do realize that was a medical condition, blah, 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 blah. And this is a recovering person has recovered from cancer. And I said, this is not just about alopecia. There's people who have cancer and other diseases that could potentially have hair loss, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, well, I understand if it's a person and they're recovering from cancer. I mean, it's just, the whole thing is just getting to be.
I don't understand. Okay, yeah, the idea that, yeah, like, I've seen things online where like, well, she got alopecia, why don't she just wear? Well, she don't want to wear a wig.
Oh, that's what he said too.
Yeah, I'm like,
he was just like, she could just wear a wig.
It's not a just wear a wig. She doesn't want to. She shouldn't have to.
Right.
You know.
Right.
So that's not fair, because I've also said, insensitive comments in the sense where I say, well, hey, how can you? I wouldn't have been offended because I believe Jada Pinkett has a beautiful head shape and she's a very gorgeous woman. So I'm just saying that, but it's like, at the same time, that doesn't excuse hurting somebody's feelings. So like, I'm even saying that I'm not saying the right thing.
Okay, so let's segue over to now. Jada has become the Omarosa and Stacey Dash to Black men right now in America. Like, she has been.
I think what's interesting about this is when you pay attention to the commentary about Jada, and you have to pay very close attention, how people are responding to this moment tells you so much about them. It lets you know who you should and shouldn't have around you.
100%.
It really does. It's enough to inform whether or not your relationship should end or whether or not the boundaries should change in a very, very different and very extreme way. Because Jada is not some super villain because of what happened. I don't believe that.
Right.
They start, and then again, the media cycle has become something where now we're pulling every little clip where Jada might have said any little thing and turning it into like, oh, Poe Will. I mean, again, that is also emasculating Will. You guys are acting as if Will can't act on his own and if he doesn't know his wife or he doesn't know happiness. The man is not trapped. He's got enough money to go away somewhere and disappear forever. he ain't us.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a tough, few weeks to watch as a woman. It's been tough.
It's tough. And again, it's redrawn the boundaries with certain relationships, for sure.
And so, have they redrawn any relationship boundaries for you by any chance?
Yeah, because I'm like, yo, like, well, first of all, like, there's not a lot of people that I talk to as is, unless I'm, working.
Right.
So, but yeah, there's some people that even like that are kind of like peripheral friends, where it's like, well, you are kicked out of, like, if you ever been to Atlanta, they got this whole circle thing called I-285. It's a whole circle that just sort of defines the city limits. If you are outside of 285, I don't go outside the perimeter.
I hear that.
Now you done kicked yourself out the perimeter. I don't care what you're talking about.
Right. Well, I try to say and explain that, listen, I'm proud of her. I mean, she could wear a wig. She could have, but she decided to be herself and set a good example. Not just set an example, but that just showed a lot, right?
I think also that I don't think that people
She's embracing herself.
And I also don't think that people take into account how much stock that women we put in our hair. It's a part of even our femininity. Just since young, we've got entire movements around natural hair now, and sort of like no longer relaxing our hair and having like your hair grow out long on its own. And just the hair care is a really, really big deal, particularly in the Black community. And Chris Rock knows that. In fact, he made the documentary. And I wasn't even going there. Like I wasn't even, like that just popped in my head. I just remember that. But anybody in the Black community knows how important hair is to us. Whether or not I done been through phases where, because my hair is very soft, so somebody done put the pressing comb in there, that whole piece fell out.
Oh Lord.
Oh yeah, I've gone through that.
Oh Lord.
I had a relaxer for like a couple of years. It doesn't work for me either. Like I just can't keep up with stuff like that. Try to texturize it one time, and I was like, it just, that don't work. It just thing, but there's phases where you just go through and try things with your hair in order to just sort of find your unique thing. And sometimes that means you lose your hair. So it's devastating when you've had long hair and your hair grows long. And because you did something that just didn't work with your hair, like I can't do Dominican blowouts. My hair will fall out. My hair's too soft. So when I've gotten the Dominican blowout and it was all beautiful and I was all Oprah, all that stuff, that my hair was gone in a week.
I'm cracking up about that.
I don't know why. It's just what it is. So I just have to keep my hair natural. It'll grow. It just don't like stuff.
This was such a missed opportunity for women in terms of variety of hairstyles, because she's stunning.
Yep.
If I could rock that, she was gorgeous. When I saw her when she stepped out, I was like, oh my God, look at her. But I did try to explain. I've had some situations when I used to live in DC. I don't know if it's the water down there, but I have never had situations. I didn't have hair loss, but I had hair breakage. And that hair, especially if you have any length coming down all over your body in the shower, will make you lose your mind.
Yeah.
You will lose your mind.
There's certain hair products that just don't work with your hair. There's certain shampoos, conditioners. Like there's so much people don't think about when it comes to Black hair care. And that's not a texture thing. It's really like our textures run the gamut. Like, so it's like, it's just so much that we have to think about though. Like how I take care of my hair is not necessarily going to be your routine. And as Black women, we totally understand that.
Right.
So when someone looks at our hair and it's saying like, oh, well, your hair looks a certain kind of way. And it's like, they don't even know what went into the process of trying to get it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, damn.
Right.
I tried.
And as quiet as kept, I'm sure there was some effort even with her low buzz.
Yeah.
I'm sure there was some effort. Maybe it was like totally bald and she waited a week till she got a little, who
Yeah.
knows what she did. I'm
Who
sure it's
knows?
pretty strategic, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm back to this whole situation to her being this this villain, right? So is this ever gonna end, you think, for her? Is this her legacy?
It kind of it is her it's her legacy because people tie a lot of what she says about Tupac and him kind of being so important to her. Uh, they make it seem like there's a lot of memes and stuff around that, like because of the things that she says about her relationship with him. But
Okay, so tell me which one, because it may have, I may have missed it.
well, there's things like like she's there was a point in time where Willow shared a letter that she wrote to Tupac, which was something it was like something about it was like I can't speak to it verbatim, but it was
Right,
something along the lines of like Tupac, mommy misses you kind of thing, and I wish you were here. But
right,
it just from the angle of what we're seeing here, it's awkward because it's like, well, ain't your daddy in the next room watching TV? Like, why
right.
you writing to Tupac? He dead. Like, you ain't even know him. You wasn't even alive.
Yeah.
So like that's how people are looking at it. Like, what's going on in that house? So I mean, we don't know the variables, so it reads that way, right? Then there's the Tupac jokes because you always see like she talks about the how strong their relationship is, and Will has written his book where he shared a lot of vulnerabilities because he felt like he didn't measure up in a lot of ways, and that Tupac was involved as well. So there's also that. So there's just kind of this thing this overarching theme that feels like Will, even though Will has admitted to insecurities all of his life based on decisions that he hasn't been able to make, where he felt like he wasn't present.
Mhm,
Which I think we've all had moments like that. But it's a sum of things. It's
mhm,
not like Will sitting here sleeping thinking about Tupac every day. That's not what he's
mhm,
getting at. It's a lot
mhm,
of things, and Tupac is part of it. You know.
mhm.
Um, but that's kind of adding to this sort of like the villainous nature, or that they think that Jada has, because I mean they seem to be a family that is able to be very, obviously they're very expressive and they talk about a lot of things. I mean the things they've shared with us, I wouldn't share, with anybody. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so who knows? Like if this is what you're sharing at that table, what y'all doing at the dinner table? Like y'all be talking.
What I love about talking to you, and to anyone who's watching, is like Coco and I just decided to ad lib this because and we're actually being kind of reserved right now. Because
Yeah, for sure.
we're being reserved. Like we'll spend time on the phone chopping it up, and Coco will have me in stitches because Coco is a nut. Okay, like she's keeping it back right now, but you're the one-on-one or go to her
Yeah.
social, and she's gonna let you know. Okay,
Yeah, yeah, I
she's
will.
really gonna let you know this right here. We're staying in our lane. And what I
Yeah.
love about you, before you form opinions, you really kind of have all, like you kind of have all the information, like the book. I mean, like you're complete the letter. Now, when you're talking to me, I also think this is also a, I don't know, a lesson to my lady friends about, in our relationships or any, just protecting our relationships. Like there gets a point, and I understand, and I'm old school, I'm now here like, my girl who's like, a little bit more,
Mm-hmm.
media savvy. I don't know, because that's what you do. That just gets to a point where you just gotta keep your stuff to yourself, right? I mean, like, would we even be here if we weren't sharing? I think we're almost like too much information at this point.
I think the lesson that we should all learn in that,
Okay,
and this also ties into like, let's say like reality TV and things like that, because well, that's a whole nother animal, but because
right,
things can be edited in reality TV to make a person look a certain kind of way.
right,
But in terms of overshare,
right.
the lesson we can all learn in that, in terms of even our friendships, is that sometimes you share a bad moment or have a bad time with a friend, right? Well, someone who you think is a friend.
Okay,
So let's just say I tell you, my boyfriend is Dave, and every time I talk to you about Dave, I only talk about the bad times because you're the friend I just decide to vent to.
got it.
That paints a picture about the guy that makes him seem truly awful to you.
Hmm.
When those are like flash moments, they're not the totality, they're not the sum of the person. So maybe that's like what irritated me like 10% of the time. And as long as like not like, like Dave was like aggressing me or anything like that. But let's just say it was just something I was just fussing about. But sometimes you say those things to people, and that opens up a window for that person to say, well, I don't like your boyfriend, or I don't like your man, things like that. And then now these two people can even like not have a friendship based on like something that is just not even really telling the entire story, which no one is really entitled to.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't like, for instance, like when people ask me for advice, because like again, I'm a Libra. So so you kind of see even with like how I think things through, it's not about judgment. It's about trying to understand the bigger picture, to understand how we arrived at the moment, to understand how we can heal from whatever happened in the moment, good or bad. If we have to, if it's good, that's great. But so I look at things from a really, 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 really like macro view. Then I kind of piece together what's going on. But so for that reason, a lot of people tell me a lot of things.
Same here.
A lot of things. So, but I'm the kind of person where you don't have to tell me it's a secret. I'm not going to like throw it back in your face. So if you're talking to me and you're saying like, well, hey, like, that's not cool. Like, I don't think that, you should be, interviewing so-and-so, or I don't believe that you should go, then and then you say in turn, like, because maybe I did something wrong in the interview, or like, maybe when you interviewed him, you shouldn't have asked that question because you laid it on a little bit thick. But then you may turn around and say, well, that's why you dating Dave, and Dave ain't fleet. And it's just like, what does that have to do with what? Yeah, there are people like that. They don't really know that's also like very low emotional intelligence, as we were talking about earlier. And you can't take stuff like that personal, because they just really do not know how to fully form ideas. And that's people that turn any kind of criticism into attack.
True.
Yeah. So there's a lot of people like that. I've worked with people like that, and I've learned how to work with people like that, and how to kind of manage those kinds of relationships, so you don't have to deal with that. But
are you managing me?
No.
Do you manage Rob?
No. I talk to you every day. And Rob I talk to every day too. But see, me and Rob, we the kind of people we could fuss like old people.
Right.
That's the only person that I can sit here and fuss with, and then we'll just be like, yeah, whatever. Okay, so what you doing?
I've noticed that. True.
Yeah, because I don't even argue with people.
No, you don't.
Yeah,
I've noticed that.
Yeah, I don't argue. Like, it's just what are we arguing about? That doesn't make sense.
You give someone a question and then they kind of retreat.
But see, the thing is, like, it's crazy, because when you don't argue with people, they like argumentative people. Like to me, arguing period is immature.
That's true.
It's just immature. So, and I mean, of course, there are moments where we do kind of get worked up, because it's like, we all have our moments where it's something like, oh, come on, like, why is this happening? But when you don't argue with argumentative people, they try to kick it up a notch. Like, how do I get it to that point so I can get this person to basically allow me to be a victim in this scenario? So I've always known, like, because I have such a calm nature, because I'm also very calm, because I know what I'm capable of. So that's enough for me to fall back. Like, all right, y'all really don't want this, but it just goes, they don't know what they're doing. So like, it's like, okay, like, Paul, baby, you don't know what you're doing. You do not know. You have no idea. So I don't argue with anybody. But when you're not aggressive in your tone, argumentative people try to kick it back, and they just get more and more angry. So that's how I know who and who not to engage. I don't know how we got to that point, but
no. But look,
there we were.
It was a great. What did you say?
I said, but there we were.
There we were from Libra, right?
Yes, from a Libra.
Okay. Well, I'll just bring it back around. I mean, me as a parent, I don't understand how. First of all, how old was Willow when she released that letter? I mean, I understand the letter was written when Willow was like 10, but
I think she was really young. I don't remember the. I don't think I ever really looked into the age of it all, but I looked at looking at the handwriting. It felt like it was like somebody youthful wrote. Yeah,
right. She was very young, but did she recently share this letter, or is this something she shared back then?
It doesn't feel like it was a recent thing. I mean, I guess I could look it up right now.
I mean, yeah. I mean, as a parent, I mean, as you know, I'm divorced, right?
Mm-hmm.
And divorced couples have certain thoughts about each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
And even with some of my closest friends, I kind of reserve those thoughts because those are my children's father, and that's their reality that they're going to have to. My words are going to be something that they're going to have to live with in the future. So now, like, why would a mother share what her daughter wrote? Because now Willow is having to deal with this, not just now, and that's kind of like a personal, intimate piece of information. I'm just, that's something I am a little kind of concerned with. Like, how does your child, like, children write all sorts of letters, like, how does that one particular letter is it like proving that Will is terrible? Like, what was the point of that?
It says that Willow herself added the letter to Instagram when she was 11.
Yeah, and and I don't want to get all
I don't know. Like that is a whole
that's like a whole, and then
that's
it's
something
just
else.
like, then you think of Kanye saying kids are too young to be on social media, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think Willow should be on? I mean, then we talk about judgment calls at 11, like, because this is definitely adding a lot of hurt for her family by that being posted.
Absolutely.
Because back then, she's so much older. I don't think kids were on Instagram in the way that they are right now.
No.
Right?
This is about 10 years ago.
Wow. I mean, they were on it, but
It did not. I mean, yes, I don't. Yeah, I'm trying not to. I'm not. I don't want to make a judgment about people's parenting. Whatever works in people's household just works people's household. And I don't have children, so I don't really like. I don't come. Yeah, I don't try to come with no authority about kids.
right.
I'm not even a pediatrician. I don't. This is just not my lane. But I am saying that I just think social media, it's not even healthy for us as adults.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't believe it's a great playground for children. I don't think there's really any child that's mature enough, that's not of age, that can handle social media. And even when they do become of age, sometimes even then, it's not something that can be handled. I mean, I have a friend that's been going through something where her son has been bullied at school through Snapchat, and it's a huge deal. Like
Yeah.
administration has gotten into it. Like it's that bad. Like they're literally sending him snaps, and it's just a crazy thing that, like, what kind of world are we living in where social media has become this kind of like tool to bully people, even that people that know each other, not just like, because I'm just happy that I come from a place where I had
just happy.
like, does it? Yeah, I'm happy I ain't got no kids. No, but I'm just happy that, like, I grew up in a reality where I understand what the world was like in a way that you could separate the internet from like your reality. I have friends. The people on the internet, while they can be friends, so to speak, they're not. I look at them just differently.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying, like, I don't think it's weird to be friends with people on social media. Like, that's not what I'm saying. But
Okay.
it's like there are people that I go see, friends that I know, people that I grew up with. A lot of people, their entire lives are built around their perception online. They really don't like leave the house or know how to socialize. And I'm very happy that I have a life and a world that existed before social media. The internet is one thing, but the idea that Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, Facebook are informing how you deal with your life or how you view yourself, that is very, very problematic for me. And especially if you are a child.
And a lot of adults, because with
Yep.
this whole stupid scenario where ultimately, the sort of individuals and the sort of that I love right now, especially a man, that's just like, that is their life. How they deal with their life is how they deal with their life. Like, when I hear that, I'm just like, oh my God, how refreshing.
Yep.
There are people right now as you know, on social media, and then you have the older sector that's on Facebook, right? That are listening. There's people that are just playing the videos and breaking it down and acting like internet doctors and psychologists.
Yeah.
And you will have friends, if you don't agree with them, they will send you a snippet of this to prove their point. And I'm just like, who's this? I mean, like, why you say, and your point is like,
Oh, so you're okay. What you're referring to, as social media will have it, is you're talking about think pieces.
huh?
Basically, everybody's a critic, and everybody got an opinion and a point, and their point is so much more important than anybody else's. And again, a lot of people that don't really know how to engage in a mature way don't understand that, like someone like myself, or I believe even you, can say, no, we're not saying that our points are necessarily the right points.
100%
They're just our opinions.
our opinion.
Whereas some people will say, like, no, this is how it has to be, this is how you see it, and this is, these long drawn out, and like they're just like hitting hard lefts, and
Don't
like,
forward our video to somebody, to your best friend, trying to say, see, I was right. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
no, I do not ever come from a place of authority. The only person or place I can come from as an authority is about myself and my own,
Yeah,
like,
I
my
hear
own
you.
mental health, but I can't speak on behalf of anybody. I can't act as if my opinion is law.
Right.
I can't, or absolute. I can't do that. Like, it's just, so I never understand when people sort of, that's why I get back to the arguments. And that's what social media, a lot of times I see that now. I'm like, why are these people going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth? This is my opinion. Boom. Like, it just is. We don't have to really talk about it anymore. I can get into why I think this, but I'm not going to argue with you about it.
You know, I'm not gonna lie. I've never been around anyone who ever was engaged. Like, I'm around professionally people that obviously are savvy, but they maintain your perspective. And I don't know if it's
Mhm.
because they are media professionals and they understand a lot of this is like, I mean, the more we watch it, the more certain people are making, right?
Yeah.
But I've recently had experience of being introduced to a scene where there's people that are the people that just consume this. Like, they don't even get news. Their news is through these think pieces.
Yeah, it's problematic when you see it happening with. Well, see, I saw someone say this the other day, and it was to me it was very profound. And what they were saying was the problem with these think pieces is that they're coming from intelligent people who are able to form these thoughts in a very well written, or even if they're on camera, the way that they're saying it, like, it's actually it's clear, it's concise, like they're saying something as ridiculous the dog, as ridiculous as it may seem. Like, where are you going with this? Like, how do we arrive at this point? But how they're saying it, it becomes something where it becomes dangerous, because they're able to articulate themselves in such a way that they're so believable.
They're
Hmm.
influencing people.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
mean, I don't think they're necessarily influencers, but there's just a lot of impressionable people out there.
Yes, yes, and that's one of the things that has always made me very uncomfortable about social media, is that when I see in certain spaces that people may be drawn to my opinion because they look at me as an authority in that sense, I get very uncomfortable, because that's not, I need you to understand that I'm
Right.
not viewing myself as like, there's one thing if you're like a leader in a situation where you're kind of like, there's a hierarchy to an institution, right? Where it's
Mhm.
like, okay, this person is the CEO or the leader in this sense. But when you are looking at things where, like, let's say in a friend group where, like, I'm leading the friend group,
Yeah.
then we gotta, like, that's not correct. I don't
Right.
mess with that. Yeah. I'm not here to tell y'all what to do as my friend. Like, I don't understand that. Like, that's some straight
Right.
up like mean girl energy.
Definitely mean girl energy.
Hmm.
Well, I mean, I think we've just about like covered it. Right? I mean, is there anything on the topic today that we would chit chat about over the phone that we just kind of?
Yeah, but you know what? I definitely, but I think we could say that for another conversation, because there's other things I would want to talk about, that we can talk about something else. But I think for me, what I got out of this that was so healthy to me is that we're also just really kind of talking about, like, the idea of just, like, minding what you say to people, thinking about just people's mental health in general. Listen, like I tell people all the time too, like, if we all went to a therapist or a psychologist today, we are all on somebody's spectrum of something. Nobody's going to walk out of there like 100% like, oh, no, you're good. Bye. We could all use some sort of therapy. Even if that therapy doesn't mean you're actually going to a therapist,
Or
there
pill
are,
or pill.
like, our pill. Like, listen, just Some people need something to be prescribed to them, and there's nothing wrong with that if that's
Right.
what you believe needs to happen for you. Some people are unable to regulate themselves. There are tools we can use to regulate ourselves if we have anger management issues. Like you can use yoga. There's breathing techniques. There's just maybe you can like there's sounds.
Right. Right.
you could
Oops.
you could literally take a walk in the park,
Right.
sit down on a park bench and bird watch.
Mm-hmm.
There's like all kinds of things you can do. Like one of my favorite things I like to do is to hang out with seniors. Um,
Are you serious?
I'm so serious. I love hanging out with seniors because they have experienced so much life. And even when they're cranky, they're hilarious.
True.
Because I feel like if you've made it to 85 years old, you have the right to be cranky. That's
Yeah.
a lot of life to live. You've seen
Yes.
some things. You've had decades of nonsense. Like
Right.
we've been dealing with decades of nonsense, but you know what? I feel you. I get it. So but I love hanging out with seniors because they're able to just like what they can impart. These are life lessons that you can learn that applied in their era and their generation that also apply to ours right now. And I love to just talk to people that I can learn from. And that again, that comes from a place of just like kind of going back to my point of like not always feeling like you have to be the authority or maybe even the smartest person in the room all the time. If you go in a room and you feel like you cannot absorb information and learn something or walk away from that room feeling stronger than you were than when you walked in, then that's a problem. Then that's not a room that you should be in. Or maybe you need to figure out why that's the case. I like to learn something. Every single friend of mine has something about them that is so like strong that I can learn from them.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me of someone, and I don't think he meant it literally. He's like, you should be the dumbest person in your peer group.
Some people say that, or they'll even say like you should be the poorest person in your peer group, so that you can kind of like some people say that too.
Okay.
So that you can learn how to elevate yourself or whatever, or elevate your wealth. Bars.
Right. True.
But people say that, but I can agree with that. Like, when I say that, not so much to the point where like you get lost in the conversation because you don't know what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But again, you got to be able to learn, yeah,
Right.
and to know that there's that you can be taught.
Right.
But
yeah.
But again, there are people who just their personality style doesn't allow them to be taught or to fall back.
Everything.
Yeah, they know everything. So that's a personality style. That's something that can't be fixed. It can't really be adjusted. It's just who they are.
They're not listeners.
No, they're not. And I love listeners. But then there's a point too where you kind of got to be careful. And that kind of goes back to our earlier point where there's a difference between somebody who's a listener, who's engaging, an active listener, and really, really like just trying to have a nice, organic, fruitful conversation where you kind of just going and nothing necessarily personal. Then there are those kinds of malignant types where they're listening for information.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Yes, there's people like that.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, Koku. How do you do it?
You got to be careful.
How do you do it? How do you do it? Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah, you just got.
Okay, then you have the listeners that are what now? Go ahead. Keep
There's
going.
malignant types of people who aren't listening to be engaging necessarily.
Right.
You'll find that maybe they're not even necessarily sharing a lot of information with you. They're taking and drawing information from you so they can weaponize it for later use against you.
Yeah.
Because there will always be that time when they feel like they can just strike and just attack you with whatever it is they believe will hurt you the most. So that, again, that's why I never take anything personal, because I know that a lot of times people like that too tend to like warp information, and they'll kind of like add bits of truth with a little bit of falsehoods and drama and so forth. So like I don't take that personal, because again, that's a personality type, and that's a personal problem.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I literally just experienced that recently.
Yeah, no, I think we all have. I mean, you typically would experience that in childhood a lot of times. Like that's kind of like that's a childish trait. So when you see it manifest itself in adulthood, and it's just me being armchair therapist, I'm not really just, I'm not again, yeah, I'm not an authority. But when you see it manifesting itself in adulthood, again, like you said, it's scary because that person may have the power to destroy you even, because people may look at them and not really know that about them, and they may think that person comes from a place of authority. But you also know that if someone acts like that in adulthood, there's something else going on with them that's not really healed or well.
Completely. I mean,
Hmm.
it's not so much that someone can, I don't feel, destroy me, because I mean, I share what, that's just my personality, what I'm
Yeah.
comfortable sharing, like I don't believe in living with any sort of skeletons.
Yeah, no, I don't have anything like, there's no like, no one can do an expose on me. Like if, you're not
Right.
suddenly, like, you're not going to see like pictures of me with Will Smith on a yacht. Like, I'm not, I have no scandalous lifestyle. It ain't going down like that. I don't, I share things with people, but I also know that there are people that are looking for information. And then another thing about that too, because I don't like gossip. Once people
No,
start
she does
gossip,
not.
yeah,
She does not. This way, she does not.
yeah, I do not like gossip. So when someone immediately starts inundating me with information about people and gossipy, 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 a lot of times you can tell that they're looking to receive that back from you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I'm just like, yo, I mean, like, honestly, you could tell me what you ate for breakfast today, and I'm not going to repeat it. Like, everything to me is like, it's a one off conversation, unless we're just, deciding to sort of return to that. But I don't sit around just gossiping. I'm healthy from
Right.
that because I've seen that how gossip can really hurt people. So, I just rather not be in that kind of like in a room where that's what's happening.
I mean, we all, and not to take away from the fact that we all deserve to have someone that we can speak to and confide
Of
in, right?
course. Yeah.
And I don't know, you seem, everything that I hear, you've already heard, but I'm gonna have fun with you. But I thought was really interesting. I've heard this within, let's say, the last 12 months, that you confide in a friend, it's less likely that the friend who actually agrees with what you've done, or what, let's just say, you, I don't know, agrees with you or doesn't see any problem with what you've shared with them, is more likely to, even can be your, even it can not even be as close as a friend as, let's say, your very best friend.
Hmm.
They're less likely to share it than someone that just fundamentally disagrees with what you're talking about.
Well, yeah, because I think that's an excellent point, and the way I would look at it is that because it allows that person, because that speaks to that person's esteem. So if you confide in someone that disagrees with you, um, and they think that whatever you're doing is just, they just don't agree with with whatever you're doing. Let's just say
It
they
can be your
disagree with
bestest
your best
buddy.
friend.
Yeah.
What happens is with that person, the fact that they're spreading that information and saying that you're doing the wrong thing, it says more about them because it's probably because of how they think other people view you. So it's a way of trying to add like have a negative, like to add a strike against your character,
Wow.
so that they can actually, yeah, it's a very, again, it goes back. This is a very, very negative. That is a very like venomous type of trait when people do things like that.
You know, I will admit, and it's always fun talking to people. I mean, I know when the damage has been done, but I don't ever think that it's as, sometimes as premeditated. Like, just listening and talking, and I've heard that, like when you're talking about the listening,
Hmm.
and that someone's actually, like, in the present moment, I'm friends with you, but I'm gonna listen to potentially use something against you. You know what I mean? Or
But that comes from that person having like being distrusting. Like, I understand being distrusting, like, but there's a healthy way to be distrusting, like, or to be guarded. But that comes from a person that's distrusting in a way that they feel like every relationship is terminal because that's just how they roll. So that's what's that it, like, they have to do it. It's like again, it's like it's something that's like it's childlike.
mhm,
It's a childlike defense mechanism,
mhm.
you know.
But I mean, just to be able to be aware of it, you know.
Well, everybody's in this world is not for good.
I know, so sad.
It's very sad. No, it's true. But
Right.
we have to realize that, like, sometimes we look at things through the lens of and it's so funny because I remember he said this the other day because he said something like, "Well, I don't want to, act all Pollyanna." So like, people just, rose-colored glasses, like, "Hey, what to do? Today's gonna be a great day," and you're just walking around
I'm a Pisces. That's our, that's our, like, stereotype, right?
yeah.
I don't want to see any ugly. I don't believe in it.
But when you think about the fact that even you just, and like even just being happy, like just the state of somebody just presenting as a positive person.
Mhm.
There are people that we know, and again, that could be that great friend we're talking about. When they get home, they may just like cower in the corner and hate themselves and like literally just be like, I don't understand why everybody around me seems so happy or successful or is doing this thing or that thing and nothing for me is working. And then that's when that sort of resentment starts to fester in these people.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Wow.
they find that reason. So then that goes back to what you were saying, where it's like, well, I decided to, go snowboarding barefoot. So then they'll say, like, can you believe Val went snowboarding barefoot? Like, I cannot
Right.
believe that. She's so dumb. Then they
Right.
start spreading that, and then people start to think like, like, and then they start focusing on that and making it seem like that's the entirety of your personality or your person based on something that you did that may have been, a bad decision like we all make.
You know, I'm coming back around to, what we were talking about in regards to being conscious that people are doing something, could potentially be doing something, I don't know, in advance, like that can be
Yeah.
harmful for you actively, right?
Mhm.
And I'm thinking about there's a population of people such as myself. I don't ever feel that. But
Mm.
at the same time, though, if you've noticed with me, because once I'm suspicious of somebody or I don't trust someone or I don't like someone, it just doesn't go anywhere. And
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just that's intuition. So maybe I'm where you are with that person, these people that are doing it, but I feel it at that time. And I think you have
Mm.
one major, experience of
Mhm.
that, right?
Mm.
Like I'm trying to work through the situation, but you just don't feel good. And it just ends up right where you just
Yeah. Where one could expect, just based on small things that occur, and they're just little things.
but you see the small things, and
I see the
I
small
just
things.
I just feel like this person's giving me the heebie-jeebies. I just don't feel good about it. And then it's hard. And I also think there's an element of when you don't feel good about someone, they can feel it. And how can they feel good about you? And it just kind of like blows out
Yeah.
of control.
It's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy, really.
Self-fulfilling prophecy.
Hmm. Because I mean, in being fair, like you said, if I was just like, just kind of just like just wasn't feeling the vibes, let's say, about someone, I mean, how is that even fair to that individual if I kind of appear icy and cold, then they can return that same energy.
And it
It's not,
happens.
yeah, it's not, it's yeah, that happens, and it's not on me to be like, well, you see how that person's acting. Well, no, did you see how you were acting?
Right. No,
Yeah,
you
so.
create it. You
Mhm.
create it. And anytime I'm in any sort of relationship with a friend, family, significant other, whatever the case may be, when that person starts acting as if they don't trust me, then I can't trust them. Like I just become nervous. That's just me.
My baseline for whether or not a person can even be so-called friends with me is whether or not a person even has friends.
Oh
If
Lord.
like, and
Okay.
when I say friends, I mean, can that person say like, and this doesn't necessarily, count for military people per se, but
Right.
like, does that person have a hometown? And again, I'm keeping kind of military people that moved around a lot out of this. Does that person, can they go back home? And like that's being able to go back home is a very important question. Does that can that person, do they have a childhood friend, like literally a friend or friends, like
Right.
circle of people that they can go back to that they knew since like fifth grade or something.
Right.
How far back does that circle go? If it's like the kind of person where it's like everything is about like, the world's been against me and
Yeah, that's true.
oh, I mean, and then we all know we've all known people like that, who say things like that, and they give us a window into their worlds because again, it's a personality trait. They
Right.
can't help it. That's how they feel. They're wired that way. So when people start talking like that, like the whole world's against them, and even if let's just say like even if they've endured things in their life that are so tumultuous and horrible that kind of lead them to become that kind of person, it still frames who you are.
True. Well, I will give people a little leniency. I will say if you went to college, I expect that you should at least have some friends from college.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
If
yeah,
you
yeah.
if you didn't go to college and high school was your last stop, I need to see you hanging out with your, your girls or your boys from high school.
Of course. Or listen, I even to date, I'm even friends with people that I worked with at the mall when I was 16. Like my mall friends are my friends.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't, and
Okay, I will say, if I run into these people, I mean, I was somewhere recently and I ran into a girl that was one of my bestest of friends from 8th grade.
mm,
But she wasn't my best. Like she was in my little
no, I
crew.
suppose she's a friend though.
She
Yeah.
was no, but no, she was more than a friend. But
Okay.
but I mean, but we lost contact with each other. I mean, there was a period of time, and maybe I'm dating myself, where to call someone, if you're in school in DC, Illinois, that was long distance.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
people went through college, and there was a period of time where, yeah, I mean, we pretty much had cell phones, but we also had landlines, and our
Hmm.
cell phone numbers also changed. So there's that losing touch element. I mean, now it's impossible to lose touch. Like this generation, these kids growing up, they should never lose touch with anybody.
Yeah. I,
Sorry,
no, it's true. I will say this.
should I mute?
No, you're fine. You're really muted. I will say this. I believe that social media for me has been a tool to keep up with people that I already knew. Most of my social media friends are people that I actually knew. So it has helped me to keep in touch with my friends
Mhm.
in the same way that these kids who grew up with social media have been utilizing it too. So I have benefited in the same way.
Yeah, I think we all have.
Yeah, yeah. If you're my social media friend, pretty much like especially with like something like as archaic as Facebook,
Yeah,
we've met, we've crossed paths at some point in life, and that's helped us to kind of know where everybody's at and kind of just it's enough to keep up as opposed to picking up the phone, which now we're no longer used to. Like I don't even have voicemail.
on your phone, on your cell phone.
I haven't had voicemail in over 10 years.
Can
I
you,
don't even.
you can deactivate it because people are
Yeah.
always leaving me messages.
Nah, you deactivate it, you just don't set it up. They have done it where they keep accidentally resetting it. Like if I change my phone plan, I go back up to the store and say, take whatever you got a little thingy on there, some
Right.
features or whatever, take it off. No, do not let nobody leave me no voicemails.
Coco, this is so fun. So this is like a slice of our life. Now we're talking about like we could really segue into this whole voicemail thing.
Yeah, I'm always, yeah.
But I need to do that because I'm sick of people telling me they left me a voicemail message. I'm like, who the hell leaves people a voicemail? And like,
If it's important, you could text it.
Exactly.
Or you could just call back. Because when I think about it, even like not many people will even have my phone number. Like I don't get a lot of phone calls, and I'm okay. I mean, we're also in a place now in the world where if it's important, like you could send me a message on social media, I'm gonna read it.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's like that's fine. If it's like, hey, like hit me back, like not like Twitter, like yo, hey, I need a ride from the airport at Koku Puff. Like that's ridiculous. You know what I mean? But
Right.
But if it's something that's relatively important, I mean, that could be a Instagram DM, that could be a Facebook DM, whatever. Like I'll get it. We all at least I read those things. I'm online all the time, so yeah, that would not be off putting to me.
No. I'm just having fun. I'm having fun taking this all in.
Yeah, man, that's the way of the world. So when my phone rings, I'm always like, well, who is this? Like before the thing, it could be like, you won $1 million. I wouldn't know.
I feel so honored that all you guys allowed me to call you.
Yeah, I do not like listen. If I didn't talk to you on the phone, if I'm being honest, and we're just going by like the old school like minute structure, I believe my phone, I probably wouldn't even talk more than like 100 minutes a month.
Wow.
I just don't talk on the phone.
Wow.
And then I got some people that'd be like, yo, like, let me get your number so we can discuss. You don't have to have my number. What you can do is send me a message and we can talk this out and like just have, like what's to discuss. And I'm not gonna sit here. But then there's people that will sort of take that and think that it's like enough to just like get on your social media and be like, hey, good morning. No, I don't need the good mornings, good evenings. Hey, how you doing? How was your day? Like, let's get to the point. I'm also a very direct person. Let's get to the point. What are you asking for? What do you need?
Right.
Maybe this is something I can do for you. Let's talk about it. But don't try to butter me up. I don't require that.
I am comfortably, glowing up. And I think this is definitely a millennial versus
Oh,
Gen X conversation. You know what I
that's
mean?
funny.
We are like the most overlooked generation recently. Everyone talks about the boomers,
Oh, yeah, that's true. No, that's very true.
and then now they're talking about Gen Z.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I think the only time my generation came up was with the Super Bowl. You remember that?
Yeah, because of the artists that performed.
Because I think someone made a comment like this was like a millennial whatever reunion or something like that, or something that today. And then that's the only time my, mellow generation spoke up, was like, no, 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 no. This is our,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
That's funny.
So yeah. Send me a message on LinkedIn. I may get it a week later. I will get it, but maybe like a week later.
I've learned to start using LinkedIn more lately because a lot of people really do use, like, you're a LinkedIn person. More so, like, you kind of got me more into LinkedIn, but I realize that it's a very important tool for a lot of people. So I've learned to just be a little bit more responsive or kind of use it. I've never really used
Well,
LinkedIn
well,
like.
not so much LinkedIn, but I mean, just all these,
Oh, but yeah, yeah, you can send me a
all
message
of it. I
on.
may or may not get it. And now you're like alerting me that I need to maybe, because I see the little notifications, but I don't take it seriously. Because if you don't have my number or my email address to text me, I'm just like, what is this?
Yeah, and email too. I generally, honestly, like, even if it's just something like really like just unimportant and just silly, kind of respond to everything. I don't mind. Like, I'm not, particularly selective about that. So I'll respond to just kind of anything. So somebody like hit me like or something, hey, like, not so much the where you could tell that there's an agenda behind it, but sometimes like, like, hey, what do you think about, wheat
I
bread
hate
versus
you.
multigrain, this and that. Like, I'll answer a question like that. So
I
whatever.
mean, I understand the more important forms of communication at this point. Email is like a substitute for like snail mail. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like there's some things you have to. It's almost like, honestly, looking at my inbox feels like going downstairs back in the day and opening up your mailbox and seeing a whole bunch of coupons and God knows what. You know what I mean? It's just like, what is this? Now,
Yeah.
text is like, you got me.
Yeah. 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 That's true. Yeah, the reliance on email, just based on like how things have to go in terms of like even like with scheduling has been a little bit different for me because it's like if it weren't for working, I probably would check my email like once a week.
Oh my gosh. I am so glad you're letting me know this.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I'm
We
just
need
out.
to do this like millennial, Gen X, and then get Alex in here, Gen Z or somebody, like just chop this up because this is so different. This is enlightening.
But then
Once a week.
there are people, even like young people, that are just so like, yo, social media, I don't want anything to do with any of you guys. And they're actually very like well adjusted and they just don't care about what's going on. Or especially like I love when I meet somebody that's like super young that just does not care about like the gossip rags and things like that. And they'll just
Well,
say
they
like,
don't
who
care.
yeah, they're just like, who cares about those
They
people?
no, they don't.
Yeah.
Because I'm living with the Gen Z.
Yeah. I love to see that. It's very interesting
They
to me.
don't care. I
Yeah, I
mean,
don't.
but the way they communicate is so just fascinating. I mean, to your point about, well, they're a little bit. They're actually kind of doing a hybrid.
Mm-hmm.
They actually talk on the phone in a different way.
Mm.
The FaceTime in these groups, they like look at each other. They do not. That's all they do. And it's this thing. Like I think I was telling you. I don't know if it's Snapchat or whatever the heck. That I realized that my son was having a conversation about 2 summers back with his girlfriend. Like she was just like sending something and walking around the house, and then he would respond with a video, and then like they were doing that back and forth.
And it's like rather than just having like an actual
This is
conversation.
about
Yeah.
like 2 summers ago, not this summer, the summer
Mm.
before that.
Yeah, no, that's I've noticed that particularly I think there are a lot of people that will FaceTime only. I have experienced that too.
Yeah.
But I've noticed that it seems to happen with people who kind of have something to lose. Like they need to make
Gonna
sure,
lose.
yeah, like however you want to put that. But
What
like they
can
just
you
want to make
lose?
sure
What can you lose?
like they just want to make sure that they're speaking to you.
That's so bizarre. I would think of FaceTime is for a personal call. Like I know not to call you because if I accidentally call you by your faces, I thought you were part of that generation. Let me just FaceTime her. She's like, did it decline?
No, I do not. Yeah, nah. I mean, I do not like unscheduled FaceTimes. Like if you're gonna FaceTime me, you should be able to text me and say, hey, you want to FaceTime? But then people feel like that's awkward. Why don't I just FaceTime you? But it'd
I
be people FaceTime me, I'm like, yo, like I'm in a grocery store. Like, what are you FaceTiming me for?
I'm telling you, I feel so invaded in my own environment. These kids, the calls, if they get a call, it's either, I guess, through some messaging through an app, whichever one they're using, and FaceTime. They do not talk. I don't think I've ever seen, at least my oldest, my 16-year-old, pick up a phone and call. It's even when he calls me, it's FaceTime. And you know what I learned? If you're blocked, or if they block you, they can still get through if they FaceTime you.
Oh, that's scary. That's not anything I wanted to hear.
I mean, I don't know that, but we have certain family members that constantly call.
Yeah.
We're just like, you know what? Let's just block this for a little bit. It's just I mean, like, not like permanently, but we just need some quiet right now,
Yeah.
And
then they'll switch modes and channels.
Well, they don't know it because obviously it's always they don't know it, but the kids know. They're like, they FaceTime it,
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, so they're kind of like a hybrid between us. They can't talk. They have to see each other, which is like pretty confident. Like they must be really comfortable with their appearance all the time, right? Like, I gotta be like, okay, come on.
Yeah, that's what I said. But I guess people feel awkward when I say schedule FaceTime because I guess they just want to call you in the moment. So it's like, so I gotta text you and say it. Like that makes them feel like they don't want to FaceTime, which is even better. But it's just like it makes people feel like they're just they just.
I'm living with people that walk around the house, and I'm just like, damn, like it's not necessarily the neatest right now.
What I don't like is this culture of wherever we're at, where people like to do like those Facebook lives or Instagram lives, and they'll throw you in it. Cause like if you ever see me, like honestly, like if you ever see me out with somebody, or when like I don't necessarily post wherever I go, but like a lot of times if I'm in somebody's live and if anybody recognizes me, I'll be like the person in the background, like doing one of these maneuvers. And not because I'm on some like sneaky link, like, like kind of crazy stuff, but or like even trying to be that stealth. But it's like, what are we doing? Like, why are we out here like this, like showing everybody like why are we doing this? This is not a movie. Like, get me out of here. Crazy. I don't like that. I hate that. Anytime somebody like, we could take pictures and we could even take videos if it's something that we all decide, like, hey guys, here's a video, ha ha ha, if we decide. But this idea of like scanning the room, like, yo, it's 15 of us, y'all, this and that.
Like, you do that.
Oh Lord, I'll be that one person. They'd be like, yo, who you running from? Like, why? Are you on,
So, I'm sorry I'm bringing this up to generations, but do you think the teens are doing that? Or do you think that's kind of like old folkish? Because I do remember being in some parties, and you always had that one person like.
Well, see, that's the thing. I remember just like went back in the days when we had digital cameras. Like I did, and I do. I like to capture moments. So I'm like, so on the flip side of that is I do take a lot of pictures of my moments.
I do. I'm guilty of that also.
Yeah, I take my moments, but I think what I'm trying to articulate that I didn't realize I was arriving at is I don't feel the need to prove my moments. And that's what I feel like when you do those lives, or it's like you're kind of like showing people like, see, I really do eat brunch. It's just wow. It's not
wow. Yeah. Wow, got it.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what's happening with that.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean that's just. Well, like I said, all this is invasive, so.
Yeah. Like I don't ever take like people like I don't take pictures of who I'm hanging with. And like I mean of course you do, like, but I'm just saying like there's a lot of times where it's like you might just take your own little selfies. Like I'm a selfie person. I take a lot of selfies, but I don't have to prove that I'm not taking a selfie because I'm by myself. It's just not important that I'm friends with this person. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, reminds me of a couple of people I know.
Oh yeah, reminds me of somebody for sure.
Yeah, they're just like, how no.
That reminds me of somebody that I know too.
Yes, very much so. And so watching, they know who we're talking about.
They know exactly who we're talking about. That reminds me of somebody, yeah.
They know who we're talking about.
It's funny. Yeah. If people knew.
I know.
That's funny. That was a good one.
I know, right. Well, this was fun.
I think it was a blast.
This was fun. I mean, So we're gonna hang up the phone, and then we're gonna talk more once.
Oh, on the phone. We're jumping into.
We're gonna talk more about this on the phone, but just just chopping up with you, spend some quality time with my girl.
Yes, of course. And my name is Koku with BLACKFILM.com. I'm a media correspondent for BLACKFILM.com, and you may or may not have seen Val before. That's Val Moore. She is the CEO of BLACKFILM.com and has been for over 20 years. Do we want to say that? Okay,
Yeah,
so
that's fine.
we could date ourselves, right? Because that is really, really dope that you've been able to run this site for as long as you have. I mean, we have hundreds and hundreds of interviews. She's hosted in-person virtual events. We're talking about, we've been to, in the time that I've been with Black Film, I've been to the Oscars, I've done Sundance, I've done Tribeca. I actually hosted, I was on part of the DC Black Film Festival. I was one of the panelists. I've done a lot of things because I can say I work for BLACKFILM.com, and those credentials do open doors. So thank you for everything that you've done for me as well.
Thank you, Koku. Love you.
Thank you. I love you too.
All right. Bye.
Later. If you want to see more content like this on BLACKFILM.com, make sure you like, subscribe, and ring that bell.